Well, at least that was an improvement over the premiere.
All I see is what used to be.
Hey guys, Cameron from Feed the Beast, Season 1, Episode 2, In the Name of the Father, and you guys know I really was not looking forward to this episode. I mean, the first episode was not terrible, it just was very mediocre, and it wasn't really doing anything that I wanted to do, and it just wasn't really that great. I really was not a fan of the premiere, I wasn't really looking forward to this episode either. I did hear this episode was better, and that is the one thing I will give this episode, that this was a better episode than the first episode. I care a little bit more about some of the characters. Some of the characters I still don't give two shits about, but some of them I really do care about. But was this a great episode? No, still not a great episode. I'm still waiting for that great episode, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to stick with this show, because there are some decisions made in just this one episode that, if these decisions are made again, are really going to annoy me, and I really hope does not happen, especially because of the character that made those decisions I was really upset about. But let's just get into this episode, because like I said, I do think this was a much more focused episode than last week, but it still was not a perfect episode. There were still a lot of problems with this one, but let's just get into it. We start with a flashback of TJ talking to his mom, Rye, while she's making espresso, and he talks about a robot that serves food, and it's a really good scene because it reminds us that TJ did once used to talk. He used to talk to his mother, he used to, he used to have a really good relationship with her, and now he looks at a machine that's unused, and Tommy calls for his son, and Dion comes downstairs, and I thought it was a really great opening. It really reminds us of who TJ once was, and TJ's proven to be one of my favorite characters in this show. We see Dion reminds Tommy to talk to his dad about investing in the restaurant, and because obviously that's what they need. They need, Tommy's dad's money. So Tommy drops his son off at school, goes on his sail rounds, and Tommy is sleeping because of his drinking habit. He backs up into some traffic, cones then drives off, and I thought it was a good opening overall, definitely, but Dion then sees Patrick's van out front, goes to knock at the door. Patrick asks about the restaurant, and I still don't give a shit about Patrick. I mean, again, he's just coming across as very cartoony to me, and there's really nothing different that they're doing with him that makes him any more threatening in this episode. Dion says he just lined up an investor. They'll have a signed contract in a week. Patrick says he wants to see the contract in 48 hours. And again, just the whole idea that this is all just to give him the money that he needs is really dumb. Patrick reminds him he has 9 fingers left, so he can take plus all his pretty teeth. Tommy takes a call from Pilar from the Grief Group, and I'm still not really a fan of Pilar is actually, I pronounce it Pilar. I'm still really not a fan of her character. I just find her way too over the top, and just she's having way more fun than she should be. And she says that they need wine for the restaurant. She asks if he can recommend some wines. He says he can come and put some ideas, bring them to the next meeting. And to me, this seems like already this restaurant's not going to work, because if she wants to, basically, if she really needs wines for her restaurant, it really already seems like he's going to end up going with her, and, Thirio's is actually not going to happen. It just seems that way already, and it already seems like this restaurant is doomed, and I really hope that's not the case, but that's kind of what it's seeming like here. And he says he can come up with some ideas, bring them to next meeting. She offers to stop by his place. He tells her that it's at the old Kramer piano factory, and it's a mess. He says he has to go when his boss calls, and TJ is then at school, deals with bullies. He's freaking out. He's running into the girls' room to hide, and he goes into a stall where a girl is drawing a big mural on the wall. She asks if he's the kid who doesn't talk, then asks his name. He writes it on the wall, and he helps her color on her graffiti mural. The bell rings. She says he can keep his marker, and he goes to see, and basically she says that he can keep his marker. Again, a good scene. I'm liking the stuff we're getting with TJ. I thought that was really good overall. Definitely, I am really enjoying what they're doing with this character. I think they're doing some really good stuff there. So Tommy goes to see Frank, his boss, and he tells Tommy that he has a great nose for wine, but is crap at selling it. He's just not good at really selling it, but he's good at knowing what good wine is. And Tommy says that he has bad territory. Frank says that he's sloppy and messing up, and he has to fire him if this keeps up, because obviously, we can understand why. Obviously, it's because of Rye and everything, and Tommy's still grieving over her. That's definitely, I think, the reason why Tommy's not as good as he should be, because he's still grieving over his wife. But Tommy says he's had enough of this. He literally quits his job, even though Frank tells him no takebacks and mocks the idea to open a restaurant in the Bronx. And I don't know. To me, it just seemed kind of rushed. I don't really see what the reason was that he did this. I mean, we know that this was his wine business. I mean, is he really 100% sure that this is really going to work out? Because honestly, I don't really think this restaurant's going to work out in the way that they wanted to. I just have this fear that that is exactly what's going to happen. That this restaurant's not going to work out. He's going to have to go back to, what he was doing, and, I really don't think that this was a good decision for Tommy to make. Again, like I said, for me, this episode, I really do like Tommy as a character, but he actually made some really stupid decisions in this episode, and that's one of the things I really do not like, because I want to enjoy Tommy's character. David Schwimmer's doing a great job, but his character is kind of a dumbass in this episode, honestly. This is one of two really dumb decisions that he makes, and I'll talk about the other one that's even worse than this, but basically, Tommy comes home, Dion freaks out about not talking to his dad, because he obviously needed him to do that. Dion snatches his car key, says he can't wait for him to grow a pair, says he needs to jump in. He tells Tommy he'll come as backup and cranks the car. Tommy's annoyed, walks over, but Dion pulls away, makes him keep coming. Patrick goes to jail to see his dad, Ziggy, who talks about their enemies, and I literally don't give two shits about this plotline at all. They're trying to get us to care more about Patrick's character, because we see a flashback of Patrick pulling teeth. Ziggy asks about the guy who burned the restaurant, and he says to kill him, and I really just don't care. I really don't. I don't care that Ziggy is the, person that basically, was the person that sent Dion to jail. I don't give a shit about this. And Patrick says he owes them $600,000 and you can't get money from a dead man. Ziggy says that message means something and hangs up the phone, walks off. And who is he talking about here? I don't really understand. Clearly someone's dead. I don't know who this is. I don't really care. It's just they're trying to get us to care more about Patrick, and it's just not working because he's too cartoony to me. He's just not realistic enough. He's too cartoony, and unfortunately because that I just can't really I really can't care like they want me to, and I want to care about his character, but I just can't because to me he's just coming across as really one-dimensional and really just overdone. I'm really not a huge fan of his character, I gotta say, and out of all the characters, he's really the one that's kind of ruining the show for me. So, Dion and Tommy are at Aiden's office waiting on his dad. His nurse wheels him in. Aiden tells Tommy he hasn't aged well and then asks what he wants since he's got a busy day. Tommy stammers over their plan to open the restaurant, and Dion takes this over the ad HOC presentation, and Dion asks him to come by tonight for a tasting. Aiden agrees and says 6 p.m. So, now they have Aiden on board, things seem like they're going really well, and then we get this really, really bizarre scene, and really reminds us how weirdly paced the show really is. So basically, after Aiden is given this request, randomly they're debating the menu, and Pilar just shows up literally out of nowhere. We have no idea how she got here. We have no idea why she showed up. How did she meet them up? I have no idea. This seemed very underwritten. It seemed like someone was missing, but Tommy introduces Pilar, who asks about the wine ideas. He says he has to go get his son from school, but Dion insists on going to get TJ, and even Dion seems like he actually wants these two in a relationship. And again, why is this happening so early? I don't understand this. I mean, what this should be is just Pilar being a friend to Tommy, but already it seems like they have a love interest for him, and you can, like I said, you can very much tell that she's going to be a love interest, and he tosses him the keys, takes off smiling, and Pilar thinks it's cool he's starting a restaurant. Dion even Dion's not upset that Tommy's moving on so quickly. I want someone to have that conversation with Tommy. Hey, you're moving on too quickly. Why are you doing this so quickly? But no one ever has had that conversation with him yet, and I really do want to see that happen. So Pilar thinks it's cool he's starting a restaurant. Dion picks up TJ. Then the counselor runs out, tries to stop him from picking him up. And I will say, the scenes between Dion and TJ, I thought were really good. Jim Sturgis did a really great job in these scenes. Probably because he wasn't with the mobsters, because that's the part of the show I don't like, but this stuff I actually do like. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Dion and TJ's relationship. I like it overall, and he says he's TJ's support person. He says he's trying to help him through all this, says he'll be tutoring him. TJ nods, then says she's glad he got some help. The bully kid comes to the car. Dion glares at the kid, then tells TJ they need to make a few stops. TJ winces when he goes to put his seatbelt on. Dion sees the bruise. Dion asks if the kid did this, and Dion goes to get out of the car, but TJ stops him. Dion asks if he's sure. TJ looks away, and Dion and TJ then go to see Stavros, who freaks out, says the Tooth Fairy's upstairs, and I'm like, oh shit, now we gotta see this again. Tasha Hooker takes TJ to get a snack. snack. Stavros runs up a bat to threaten a guy who roughed up one of his girls. Now, why would you take TJ here? I mean, just side note, why would you take a little kid here? I don't understand why he would do this to him. I mean, this is not at all a safe area. But Patrick is there with his pillars out, and Stavros says, get out. Patrick hands him some money, says that's extra for future dental work. They leave. TJ then draws more birds. Patrick sees Dion and taps his watch to remind him of his time limit, and Stavros brings Dion some cash, says, be careful, you're all I've got. And Dion thanks him. They head to the market, and he buys food for dinner plus some drugs, and I just don't care. I don't care about these characters at all. I don't care about Stavros, don't care about Patrick. I'm literally, when these scenes come on, I tune out. I tune out, and I don't care. So back at the factory, they start cooking. Again, we get some, not as much unnecessary cooking in this episode, but it still was there, and TJ helps in the kitchen. Dion gives him a cooking lesson. Upstairs, Tommy's getting dressed and is drinking, and he's very nervous. He puts on his somnoleur pin, and we see a flashback of him studying for the certification. Tommy comes down and sees the cooking lesson still going on. Aiden shows up, gets snippy. He asks if he has to screw to get a meal. Dion curses because he's early, and Tommy introduces TJ to his grandfather, and basically TJ serves a plate, and Tommy talks about the wine, but Aiden says just pour it, and he digs into the food. Aiden says abalone, Dion says scallop, and Aiden says same thing. They serve the next course with Pinoche Noir, and he asks if it's pigeon, and Dion snaps and says it's quail. He says it could be an attic bird. Tommy calms Dion, says next course. They serve him lamb. His dad drops ice in the wine. Tommy's annoyed. Aiden drops his fork, and TJ picks it up, but then panics when he sees a gun on his grandfather's ankle, and obviously he's freaking out, knowing that that's there. He doesn't know obviously why that's there, and he's kind of scared why it's there. The dessert is served. He gives a bite to his companion, and Dion asks what he thinks, and Aiden says he doesn't like candy-ass crap, and Tommy says he has no clue what incredible meal he just had. Aiden says he knows it's going to gentrify soon, and they may as well eat at their fancy restaurant that he will own half of, because obviously he's going to own half of this. You know, he's the reason why they're going to be able to do this, because he has the money and things like that, and they need to make sure that he likes what they're serving, because obviously if he's going to own half of it, you know, he needs to enjoy the food, obviously. So he says he also wants to see his grandson every week. Tommy says no. Dion drags him out. Dion says that's his grandfather, and honestly, the conversation these two have, I really did enjoy. I thought this was probably one of the best scenes of the episode. Because here's the thing with this situation that I really do like, is that while Aiden, you know, obviously Tommy does not really trust Aiden, he is TJ's grandfather, and Dion says it's his grandfather. Tommy says he's a racist prick. TJ nods his father. Tommy says TJ doesn't understand. Dion says maybe his old man has changed, and here's the thing that doesn't work for me in the scene, is that why would Tommy not accept Aiden, but he does accept Dion? Because Dion's so corrupted, and he's going through all these problems, and he's friends with all these mobsters. Why is Tommy okay with that, but he's not okay with his father being a racist? I don't really understand that, and I get that obviously, you know, Rye was black and things like that, but Dion says they'll send over a contract, but Aiden brought one along. Tommy grabs it, reads it, Aiden leaves. Dion says they'll send a signed copy tomorrow, thanks him. Dion is thrilled, and it seems like this restaurant's gonna go through. It seems like everything's good, seems like they're in business, and Tommy says they need a lawyer to look it over. Dion says he's got someone. Dion goes to see the lawyer, the wonderful lawyer that he had sex with, of course, like 3 times in the last episode, and he, of course, you know, she wants to know why he's there, and basically she says that she has company. He says he needs to talk to her about something. He says he needs legal advice and asks if she can look at the contract and let him know if it looks okay. And she says he's broke, just out of prison, says no, then shuts the door. And it turns out Marissa's dad, now this is the dumbest twist I think the show has given us so far. I hate this twist. It turns out that Marissa, the lawyer, her dad is the cop who was busting Dion's balls about Patrick, and that's why she's not going to help him, which is really dumb, honestly. I'm really not a fan of it at all. It just, again, it feels like a plot inconvenience and just feels like it's there to stir up trouble, and I don't like that. So back at his place, Dion tells Tommy to try and get Pilar to look at the contract since she owns a restaurant too, and he tells her he got a contract and says they are clueless. And yeah, that does not make any sense whatsoever, the fact that she owns a restaurant. Why would she have any part in this? And he asks if she could take it over, look it over for them. Pilar says yes. Tommy says he can email it to her. Tommy drops TJ off at Aiden's place. TJ shushes his dad when he tries to protest, and TJ goes inside with his dad's nurse. Tommy leaves unhappily. Pilar gives the contract to his sister to look at it, it, and she tells Pilar that there are some things that will bite his ass, and she wouldn't sign it. Tommy goes to Rye's grave and tells her about seeing his dad, and it's a really good scene. I like the way that was done. Aiden then sits with his grandson, who doesn't talk. He asks if TJ plays chess, and he shakes his head no. TJ twitches. His granddad points out the bathroom, and Pilar shows to see Tommy, but finds Dion instead. She says if he doesn't say the name or location of the restaurant, and she says Tommy should know it's not a good contract and they shouldn't sign it. Dion asks if she likes Tommy, and Dion says it's good for Tommy since he lost his wife, his kid is mute, and he's circling the drain, and I really don't think it is, honestly. I think it's really just more stress than he needs, because I don't really think Tommy should move on at this point. I think he needs to, grieve more over his wife, definitely, and move on from her. But, again, I think this is all happening way too quickly, in my opinion. I'm not really a fan of it, and I really hope it's just moving too quickly. That's really what it is. It's moving way too quickly. I'm not really into it, and there needs to be more going on here. I feel like this is just, there's too much going on. But then we get the one scene in this episode that really ruined this episode for me, that I really was enjoying overall, but this scene just really killed it. So TJ looks at the gun in his granddad's guns cabinet, then a smaller case with handguns and a Uzi. His granddad yells at him, says get out of here, says his housekeeper made him a sandwich. Pilar goes to grief group late, and Tommy's already there. The leader asks Tommy to share. He says he's feeling good about the restaurant thing. Tommy asks Pilar about the contract. Tommy comes home, and the fact that this is just making Tommy feel good about, losing Rye, I think is really dumb, honestly. He finds Dion snorting coke. Tommy says Pilar told him it's a good contract. He signs it, and Dion runs out with it to take it to Patrick, but the cop picks him up. Tommy hassles Aiden for dropping his son off late. Aiden says the kid is a free thinker and needs to learn some rules. Aiden says he's a free thinker like his mother, and Tommy says don't say anything about my wife, and I just don't understand this. He's okay, and then his father brings up his wife. I don't really like it. And then Tommy sees a bruise on TJ's stomach, and he lifts up his shirt, and he asks where he got the bruise. He asks if it happened today. And here's the thing that would just made the scene a lot better, because if he would just ask TJ, did your grandfather do this to you, this would not have happened. This entire scene would have been a lot better. And honestly, I think the scene would have been more intense if it would have been, did your grandfather do this to you, and have TJ just nod yes. That would have been a great way to end the episode, but that's not how it ends. He tells him to get in bed, do his homework, he leaves angry, goes to his dad, curses him, accuses him of hitting his kid. Aiden says, if I did, what would you do about it? Because really, there's nothing he can do. I mean, he was hit, and Tommy threatens him, but his dad kicks his ass from his wheelchair, pulls a gun on him. He says he'd blow his brains up with this inexpensive rug. Turns out Tommy was abused as a kid, and again, just really dumb. I think, honestly, a really dumb plot twist, and really just seems like it's there to add drama to the story that we really don't need. I'm really not a fan of this, as you guys can tell, and Tommy then calls Dion, curses, says they're not doing business with his dad no matter what, because obviously he doesn't trust his dad whatsoever. He's with Patrick, showing him the contract. Dion lies, tells Patrick everything is all good, that they're all good to go through with the restaurant. That's how the episode ends. God help me, let's just get into this overall. Look, this wasn't a terrible episode, but that decision made at the end of the episode was really dumb. I mean, if Tommy would have just asked TJ, did your grandfather hit you, and he would have nodded yes or no, that would have been a lot more effective, because this just felt like it was really unnecessary. Honestly, it seemed really immature for him to just go to literally his father's house and assume that his father's the one that hurt his son. I think it was really dumb. I really was not a fan of it, and it really just killed a lot of the episode for me. I mean, it really seemed like it was only there to get that reveal that Tommy was abused as a child, because I've seen that done a million times. It doesn't really add anything to the story. It doesn't make me care more about the characters. It just isn't really doing much of anything. And I really do want to like Tommy as a character. Pilar is ruining that. I think Pilar doesn't need to be here, honestly. You could cut Pilar out of the story. Have Pilar here, but you don't need to have her be a love interest already. Have her be a friend to Tommy. Have her be someone who is helping them with the restaurants, and then you can make her a love interest. Because for me, that's not really working. But probably the biggest thing that's not working, I had to say this last week, if this show didn't have the mob, it wouldn't be different at all, honestly. The mob is only there to add drama to Tommy and Dion's story. That's why it's only there. And if this show would have just been these two going into business, trying to make the restaurant that they wanted to make before Tommy's deceased wife died, that would be a really entertaining show. But that's not the show we're getting. We're getting a show that just has way too much going on, and there's even more going on now with Aiden and everything. And it's just, there's too much going on. It's hard for me to keep track of really what's going on. And now that we have this whole situation with Dion and Marissa, I don't give a shit about Marissa's character. I don't care about her father. And I certainly certainly don't care about what's going on with Patrick and his father. I don't give it, I don't care at all. I don't know why the show wants me to care so much. I get that the show's trying, definitely, but it's just not really working in that sense. Now, the things that did work in this episode, the scenes between Dion and TJ, I really love, until he took TJ obviously to that corrupted area. I have no idea why he thought that would be a good thing to do, because it wasn't at all. But those scenes I thought were really good. The stuff with Tommy and TJ, I like their scenes overall. I think those are well handled. The way that TJ's still getting bullied, that stuff is working really, really well. Father of the episode, by the way, that title of that episode seemed really, the title of this episode, it seemed like it was very much in, like, by the way, it was not called in the name of Father. It was called Father of the Year. I don't know why I called the name of the Father. It's called Father of the Year. For me, that title, though, it seemed more like a sarcastic thing than the actual title of the episode, and I think that was the point. I don't really know, though. But really, the show, it's very messy. It's really struggling. I'm hoping it gets better, but right now, it's just not really doing what I need it to do. I need the show to get more interesting. I need to care more about these characters, and I'm just not really. I'm not really caring. I want to care about Tommy, and I want to care about Dion. But honestly, Tommy in this episode, I care about him, but he's making the stupidest of decisions for me to care about him. Why would you quit your job? You don't know if this restaurant's actually going to work out, so why the fuck would you quit your job? There's nothing finalized yet. It makes no sense. If we go through this whole thing at Tommy, like, losing all this money, I'm not going to feel sorry because you're the one who decided to quit your job before anything was finalized. I mean, I don't know why you decided to do that. Two, why would he assume that his father hurt his kid? I understand, obviously, his father abused him, but why wouldn't he just ask TJ? I mean, that would have been the right thing to do. His son can clearly hear, so don't act like your son can't hear. I mean, it really was dumb. I don't know why you couldn't have just asked him that. But overall, guys, not really enjoying the show. I am going to give it one more episode, but I will tell you guys, if next week's episode is not great by any means, and it does not sway me over, I'm probably just going to stop watching the show. It's not doing what I needed to do. It's not getting better. This episode was definitely an improvement, but really not by much. It was only an improvement in, like, a few scenes that it felt just more like an actual episode than just a bunch of random scenes, because that's what the first episode felt like. This episode is definitely more focused, but it just wasn't better because our characters right now aren't that interesting. I'm not really into them. I know it's only episode 2, but this show's just really not doing what I need to do. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Are you enjoying the show so far? I'm really not. For me, this is probably the most disappointing show of the summer so far. I'm hoping it gets better next week. I don't really know if it will, but I will see you guys in my next, which will be for Wayward Pines, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.